What's up, everybody? Gabe Spencer, another edition of The Scattered Chef. Before I get going, make sure to like, subscribe to these videos. Really appreciate all the support. So hey, today I got something a little different. We're actually making sliders, but we're making them out of some wild axis that I acquired back in the spring. And I'm gonna tell you what, if you guys have ever had axis meat before, it's really, really great. But this recipe that I'm using, guys, it'll work for whitetail. It'll work for just really lean ground beef. It'll work for elk. It'll work for basically any lean meats. So, which is always better for us, right? So we're gonna jump into this and stay tuned because it's gonna get real. All right, guys, let's get to the ingredients. But hey, first, before we get to these ingredients, I want to make sure you guys are subscribing to this channel. We work really hard to bring all this stuff to you guys, and I really, really appreciate all the support that we're getting so fast. So let's jump into the ingredients. First things first, we're gonna need some ground lean meat. This is that axis meat I was telling you guys about that we got back in the spring. But you know what? Any lean meat's gonna work. So from bison to whitetail to whatever you come up, even just a really lean meat from the grocery store is gonna work great with this. The next thing we're gonna need, of course, is an onion. We're gonna need some breadcrumbs, 1 egg. And this is something I've picked up and I've kind of fallen in love with, is this Kinder seasoning. This is called the blend. It's salt, pepper, and garlic. I'm gonna tell you what, I've been using a ton of it lately and I've just really, really fell in love with it. So I have no affiliation with those guys. Unless you guys wanna start affiliating with this channel, it'd be awesome. But check these guys out, give them a look, it's great stuff. And then also never forget, without just some regular sliders, we're gonna need some good Velveeta sliced cheese. And then something that I picked up this morning from the store from my local baker was some slider buns. So ultra fresh. You know, one thing about ingredients, guys, never cheap out on the ingredients. Always get really great stuff. It's always better for a better product in the end, right? So I'm gonna get all this wrapped up. I'm gonna show you guys how simple this really is. Let's jump into it. All right, so starting off with our ground axis here, first thing I wanna do is just kind of break this up a little bit in my bowl. I wanna go ahead and add my egg. This is gonna work as our binder. So, you know, since there's no fat in any of this meat, we want to make sure that we have something that's going to bind this together. So that's why we're going to add the egg and we're going to add our breadcrumbs. So just add that breadcrumb in there. I may not use all of this here. Just kind of work this in together. Use your hands, get in there, right? And just get this work together. You can season it up however you want. If you want to add, you know, some garlic powder, some Worcestershire, some whatever. I do those things too. This one's going to be pretty basic. Get this mixed up really well. Add a little bit more breadcrumb to it. Again, the reason behind this is just as a binder. Now, if you guys are out there and are trying to stay away from bread products and carbs and things like that, I've used almond flour in this work and it works just as well. So throw a little almond flour in there. Don't be afraid of it. All right, so now I've got this worked down. This is just 1 pound of meat. Now I'm gonna grab some wax paper. I like to make my patties on this wax paper. All right, guys, so now that we got all this combined, we're gonna start making for our patties. I don't wanna just make this just a thin patty just yet, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna shred some onion and we're gonna actually smash this down into the onion. So I'm just gonna make a ball first and put a couple little flat spots on it. So like a thick mini patty, because we're gonna smash this down into some onion and it's gonna really bring out some different flavors. So same thing on the whole thing. We're gonna just do this here, that. Make a few, it's kind of like making a meatball that's got a couple flat sides on it. Try to get them uniform in size. Maybe about 1/8 of a pound a piece. I don't know, I don't measure a lot of stuff. I just kind of go with the flow when I cook. And I think a lot of people do that. I mean, I think unless you're baking or maybe you're new to cooking, and I've seen some people like really get into a box recipe and they go by the box, like exactly cooking mac and cheese, they're cooking like exactly a 1/4 cup of water. I mean, come on, it's not that hard. It's not that serious. Now when we start baking stuff, it can get a little serious. But all right, so that's gonna make 6 of these. Next, I'm gonna get my white onion. This is just a really small white onion. I want to take all the paper off of it. Get all this paper off of it. If If you guys don't have one of these mandolins for what I'm getting ready to do, pick one up. They're super cheap. If you ever see one at a flea market or like an old garage sale or something like that, the really old ones are even better, but I can't find one. So I'm going to check the thickness of my onion first. Make sure it's good and thin. I want it a little bit thinner than that. As thin as you can get it is what you're hunting. There we go. So I mean, it's almost translucent. You can almost see through that sucker. See that? You can almost see through it. Not just because there's a hole there, just you can see through it. All right. Let's work this over. On this little contraption, don't get brave and try to just cut all the way down to the end, because it will fillet you open really quick. So I'm going to do one more pass before it just cuts me to death. So that's what I've got. Run a knife through some of this. Just a little quick chop through there. All right. So I'm going to put this on a plate so I can bring it over here to my stovetop. Throw this away. Throw that away. All right, guys, I'm going to show you a absolute kitchen hack here on these sliders. This is something I picked up to keep. I like to keep especially when I have a lot of people that are maybe going to be eating these, or I have to cook quite a few of them. I try to find a way where I was like, how can I keep these things hot and still fresh? I'm sitting there cooking a bunch of them, you know. But what I did is I've got me a pot, and I'm going to take a paper towel, and we're going to lightly wet that paper towel like this. We're going to place it down on the bottom of this pot, and then I'm going to take some dry paper towels and I'm going to place over the top of that quite a bit. So we're going to create a little bed of paper towel, dry paper towels over the top of the wet ones. And then what we're going to do is on my back burner on my stovetop, I'm going to heat this up and I'm going to put a lid on it, right? Just like this. And I'm going to, as I cook these and they come off, I'm going to lay these inside this little steam oven right here, if you want to call it. And it's going to really get those flavors and stuff really mixing together. The best ones are always on the bottom. So when I'm cooking them, I let everybody have it, and then I'm like, oh, I hope you guys are full. And then I grab the good ones off the bottom. So I know what I'm doing, right? So I'm going to get this over here. I'm going to get this one heated up. I'm going to get these cooking. I'm going to show you exactly how to work this really easy recipe. So you can see I've got this back pot here. That's that warming oven that I've kind of created. And it's going to really start to steam. And once I see the top part of this little glass lid get some steam behind it, I go ahead and cut it off. I just want to get it, just a little steam bubble going in there. It really makes a humongous difference on how these little sliders turn out. So I'm getting this hot here. I'm going to add a little bit of avocado oil to it. So you can start to see that steam starting to come in on the inside of that glass. All right, so I've got my cast iron skillet heating up. While that's heating up, I'm going to go ahead and cut my slider buns in half. So I want to get all of these cut up. Kind of keeping an eye on that over there. Get it prepped up. Because I like my skillet to get nice and hot before it. I don't like to throw it in a cold skillet. You guys hear me say that all the time. Perfect. All right, so I got all those little slider buns already prepped up. And those are going to be ready to go. All right, so first thing I want to do, I'm going to cook 3 of these at a time. So I want to get a small little wad of onions, set it right down, and make 3 little piles. Like this here. 3 small piles of onions. If you don't like onions, just cut it out, that's fine. And then I'm going to take my 3 little axis balls here, like that. And then now we're going to take this smasher, we're going to press this down like that, let it cook for a second. If you got to use a spatula to kind of knock it off the back side of that, I don't even know where I picked this thing up at, but it's been super handy. I use it all the time. Just like that. So now that I got them flattened, and I got them pushed down into the onions, and I really think it makes a big difference. Now I'm going to hit this Kinder's on here like that. Just a little dash on there. This is warmed up. You can see it's got some water on the back side of that glass, so that's going to keep it really fresh once we get this thing rolling here. So I'm going to let this cook up, start frying up together. I'm going to put some cheese on it, and we're going to flip it, then we're going to put some cheese on it, then we're going to start plating those things up. So works really well. Okay, so while those burgers are over there working in, I'm going to go ahead and prep out some of my slider buns. You can rig them up however you want. On these, I normally keep it really basic. I just do a little bit of mayonnaise and cheese is all it really needs. I don't want to take away from that awesome access meat too much. Separate my tops and the bottoms here. Little run of mayo. And I'm going to tell you, like, once it gets in that little steam pan, it really comes alive with flavors once it sits in that thing for about 10 minutes. It's awesome. So by the time you're done making it all, they just freaking pop. And I have another recipe with truffle fries. You guys can check out some of my other videos in my series here. It goes great with this. I cook it all the time. Daughter loves it. So there we go. So that's enough for 6 of them there. Those are primed up. Get this put back up. And I hear them already talking over there. All right, so I got these turned. I'm going to go ahead and lay this cheese on top of here. I'm just going to put some Velveeta cheese on the top. I'm going to let that start getting melted down, and it's going to cook the backside. When you flip these, don't worry about like the onions like extremely caramelizing on there and just kind of getting black and charred. It actually gives it just another layer of flavor that's really, really great. I'm a huge fan of it. At first I was like, golly, I burned the onions. Well, don't worry about that. They're not burned. They just are just changing. They're just changing colors, right? So you can also see how these patties have kind of shrank down a little bit. They're going to fit our slider buns just perfect. Just a few more minutes on this, and I'm going to start just assembling them together, and I'm going to get them back here in this little steam pot. That's really where the magic happens. All right, so these are done. I'm going to pop these off of here. I'm going to load them up, and I'm going to start placing them. And see the steam come out of that thing? I'm telling you, that right there is the game changer. Load that up. Put your tops on them. Lay them inside that. Just like that. Looks awesome. Get your lid back on it. Hit another little avocado oil. Make your little piles of onions. All right. 3 little piles. Grab our patties, pop them down on each one. Bang, bang, bang. Give them that smash. Lift it up just a hair. Pop it off that. Give it a few seconds. Pop that up. Right. Remember, hit it with that Kinder's, right? It's called the blend. Look at it. I think that's Kinder right there. He looks like a Kinder. Look at him. He's like, come on, taste that salt. It's awesome. All right, cool. Give that a little bit more smash to it. And if you don't have one of those presses like that, you can probably just use the back of a whatever spatula. Work fine. All right, last 3 are up. You get these plated in. Hit the tops on them. That's the bottom. That's another bottom. That's the top. You don't want to have 2 bottoms, right? Not unless you're like that. I don't know. So you want to stack them in there. Get them stacked. Kill that fire. That sucker's getting hot. All right. Stack these in there. Last one. Pop the top on it. Bang. Give it a little smoosh. Pop that right there. And I'm gonna let these sit in here for a few minutes and let those other ones steam up. And then I'm gonna show you guys exactly what this is about. It's gonna be fire. All right, guys, I finally got this off. This steam pot's full of these sliders. It's awesome. I've had some guys actually stop by. They're in the background right now just waiting for me to unleash this fury onto them. But I was like, you can't do that yet. I got to try it first. So anyway, I'm going to open this up and you can kind of see the steam pop off of it. This is the secret ingredient. It's actually just how we steam them at the end, right? So pop one of these out. They're piping hot, super moist. Check that out. Let's try this out. Perfect. All right. You get the onion, you get the cheese, you get the steamy bun. Like, it's rock and rolling. Anyway, guys, try this out. Use it however you want. Any kind of lean meat, it's what's going to work really well. So, my name's Gabe Spencer. I'm the Scattered Chef. Appreciate you guys watching this show, watching this channel. Please subscribe, hit that like button, hit that share button, and I will see you guys on the next one.